Hey, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, where we are on our 29th in-depth character review, where we are looking at Darth Maul. The Sith are bringing their revenge back in the game, and a lot of people have been asking, should I get Darth Maul? There is a $20 pack, should I buy that? Well, to answer that question, I have some gameplay I captured while using the pre-release build from Electronic Arts, where all the Sith have Zetas, and I also have my own Darth Maul to show how he works in many other lineups. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And to get us started, let's go ahead and pull up the Hall of Fame and see where we stand so far. In our last review, we looked at Grand Moff Tarkin, and we placed him as a Padawan. Where is Darth Maul going to fall? We haven't seen him in so many months that all of a sudden, after his mini rework he is absolutely insane, and someone you might want to consider adding to your inventory. Before talking too much about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, let's talk about Darth Maul's history in the Star Wars universe. Darth Maul was born on the planet of Dathomir, and at a very young age, Darth Sidious saw Darth Maul's potential and took him under his wing as an apprentice. Maul's preferred style of fighting was using a dual-bladed lightsaber and special acrobatic maneuvers, which made him a deadly warrior to face. Through a series of moments of playing cat and mouse, Maul finally had the opportunity to duel Qui-Gon Jinn and the young Kenobi to the death. The epic battle ended with Maul defeating Qui-Gon Jinn, but Kenobi continued to fight for his master and ultimately chopped Maul in half, sending him down the reactor shaft. And not to spoil too much, but I highly recommend you watch the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels to learn more about what happens with this story later on. In Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, we continue to see Maul's rage and hatred against Jedi, as well as his ability to hide in the shadow so he can come back and surprise his enemies with deadly attacks. Now we start talking about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, the very first thing you need to know is how do you unlock this character. For the longest time, Darth Maul was exclusive to the Chromium packs, and he still can be found there. In more modern times, you can find Darth Maul in a limited edition Sith pack. For $20, you will get 80 shards of Darth Maul and some gear to get him bumped up a little bit, and this is something our conversation will be revolving around to help you figure out if you should buy this pack or not. If you are taking the free-to-play route, you can actually find him in the Guild and Fleet shipments as of this past November, where in each shipment you at times may find 5 shards for 400 currency, and he is a much harder farm, mainly because you might not see him all the time and he just shows up here and there, but you should be able to at least get 5 shards of him in either of those shipments per day, and if you want to do the math, it's going to take you about 66 days to 7-star him, assuming you can get 5 shards each day, and best case scenario, you might be able to get 10 shards of him a day, making it a 33-day journey before he hits 7 stars, but this could be a lot longer due to the random nature of both of those shipments. It is now time to go ahead and look at Darth Maul's stats before mods and abilities are considered, and this data now includes all the new Siths such as Darth Nihilus, Sith Trooper, and Sith Assassin, so you have the most up-to-date information in this video. And we start off with the pros. First off, Darth Maul has a killer AoE. He is number 2 for AoE, with the average amount of damage being 2,915. Maul nearly doubles that, and he does 5,436, and yet again, this does not consider stats and abilities, and this really does get amplified in the long run. We'll talk about that in a second. Continuing on Darth Maul's pain train, we look at basic damage, where he is number 11. Average amount of damage is 4,338, and Darth Maul is 5,598. So yet again, the kit really does some crazy stuff to this, and I just gotta talk about that soon. And continuing on this pain train yet again, number 45 in maximum damage. Average amount of maximum damage is 5,531, and Darth Maul's maximum damage is 5,598. So numerically speaking, this is getting more towards the very end of the spectrum for pros. And the last thing we gotta talk about, which really ties into all this offensive stuff, is armor penetration. He is number 15 in armor penetration, with the average being 52. Darth Maul is 89, meaning he is going to try to get more damage on those big, heavy armor characters like Five, Sun Fac, and General Kenobi. If you may have noticed, the pros consist of pretty much all of the offensive things in the game, which is great. The bad thing is he is average at nothing, and pretty much all of the cons are all defensive-based things. And we start off by looking at speed. And ouch, he is number 101 in speed, very low on the spectrum. Average is 127, and Darth Maul is sitting at 100. So don't expect this guy to be super quick unless you have his Zeta leader ability. And once again, we will talk about that soon. Next is potency, and very low, super low. What's going on here? Number 106. He is the bottom of the spectrum. That's crazy. The average is 31%, but Maul is at 0% with Jin and Kenobi. But just wait. I promise. There's more to this. We'll talk about this soon. And the last three things are very depressing as well. Health, he is number 100. The average amount of health in this game is 19,228, and Darth Maul is at 14,319. So very, very low health-wise. Similar to health, we look at protection, and Darth Maul claims the very last spot on the spectrum, where he is number 106 in protection. The average amount of protection in this game is 19,772, and Darth Maul is nearly 10,000 below that at 10,696, so very painful protection-wise. And to tie everything up in a bow, number 69 in armor. Average is 225, and Maul's at 201. This means he is going to take more damage on average compared to other characters in the game. So as I said, the kit is really going to change those numbers and put them in a bigger picture, and we first have to talk about Raging Storm. Raging Storm deals physical damage to a target enemy, and on a finishing blow, get this, he gains 100% turn meter and offense up for 2 turns, and to top all this off, he deals double damage to Jedi. And as I've mentioned before, the flat numbers are 5,666 to 5,598 as the base damage, but when his unique and critical damage kicks in, he can deal almost 30,000 damage plus on his basic alone when attacking Jedi, and very powerful even against non-Jedi. And I especially love this for Galactic War. Probably my favorite ability in Galactic War is going into a battle and taking everyone out with just Darth Maul using his basic. Trust me, try it. You will have so much fun, I guarantee you. This next ability got a lot of loving when the developers looked at his kit again, and it's called Whirling Blades. It deals physical damage to all enemies and inflicts daze for 2 turns on all enemies. This attack deals double damage to Jedi. The base damage is 4,920 to 5,436. This ability is just even more insane than the first one. At times, this can deal 40,000 damage per enemy if they are a Jedi, and Daze is just a super powerful mechanic that shuts down many teams by preventing bonus turn meter, prevents counterattacks, and prevents assists. And almost every team nowadays has some aspect of all that I just mentioned, and applying this to everyone is even more deadly. So yet again, a very powerful AoE that does big damage and applies a very deadly debuff. Time to talk about his Zeta leader ability, and there's plenty of gameplay in this video showing this. All Sith allies under Dancing Shadows gain 20% evasion, 20% turn meter, and stealth for 1 turn at the start of each encounter. And they gain these bonuses anytime they are critically hit or they evade an attack. The list keeps on going by saying that they can't be critically hit while stealth, and they gain advantage for 2 turns whenever stealth expires. The stealth and turn meter from this ability also ignores taunting allies. So a really strong counter to teams that are focused on critical damage like Phasma's new Zeta, as well as other rebels and droids who focus on critical damage. The turn meter bonus at the beginning of the game is really important to get your days off really early, to get your debuffs out quickly, like Darth Sidious can open up the game by applying Expose to everyone. When modded correctly, you can have most of your Sith go first, a very top contending leader in Arena. This is also very Sith-like because they'll hide in the shadows, and then when they show up, they get advantage and they strike their opponents with some deadly damage, and then they go back in hiding in the shadows, and they keep doing this over and over again. And in one of my videos that I did with Mobile Gamer, I called this Whack-A-Maul because it's just very hard to single down on a character without them going into stealth. This Zeta leader ability forces you to jump around from Sith to Sith, which gives them more time to heal themselves, makes them drain a lot of time out of you, and overall they come back and do more damage. And then you try to go back and they evade or they get stealth. It's very difficult to just knock them down once and for all. So overall, a very solid leader ability. And if you have Zeta mats and Sith, and even without Sith, it's actually a very good leader ability when paired in the right situation. Lastly, we have have Power of Hatred, and Darth Maul gains 20% max health, gains health equal to 10% of the damage he deals, and here comes the potency fix. He gains potency equal to 0.3% of his max health. So although the numbers don't show it, he gets roughly 43% potency at the very minimum before you consider leader abilities and mods, and is perfectly sufficient in Arena. He has some more to his unique here because whenever an enemy is defeated, Darth Maul gains bonuses for the rest of the encounter. The first enemy defeated, he gains 25 critical chance. Second enemy defeated, he gains 25% evasion. Stack that on top of his Zeta leader ability. Holy cow, good luck touching him. Lastly, on the third enemy being defeated, he gains 25% max health regeneration anytime he attacks. And if you stack that on top of Darth Nihilus' lead, he is going to be gaining so much health left and right. So who needs a healer when you got all that good stuff running for you? We have one more objective thing to talk about, and that is the gear requirements. In terms of raid gear, he is going to need 3 pieces to get all the way to gear 11, and all 3 of those pieces are the Mark 5 fusion furnaces, and the average is 3 pieces, so he is pretty much right on average here. Gold gear is next, and kind of like raid gear, he needs 3 Mark 8 biotech implants. Good news is at least he only needs 1 biotech implant to get from gear 10 to gear 11. The next big thing on the list is purple gear, and he's above average in this category. The average amount of purple gear is 1,119 pieces, and Darth Maul needs 1,245 pieces, putting him at number 33 in purple gear requirements. And the most popular purple pieces you're going to need are Mark 3 stun cuffs. He will need roughly 250 pieces of those, and Mark 6 hypo syringes, where he also needs 250 pieces. So just between stun cuffs and Mark 6 hypo syringes, that is almost half of your purple gear requirements. For blue, green, white gear, he's actually crazy low in all of those categories, so you will get through those first several gears pretty easily. Alright, well that is all of the objective and statistical stuff you need to know beforehand, and now I'm going to put on my subjective hat and let you know what I personally think of Darth Maul, and it may have shown a little bit throughout the video so far. And afterwards, I will give you some mod recommendations, his mortal enemies, best friends, Yoda's checklist, and then we will finally rank Darth Maul in the Hall of Fame. To begin with my thoughts, he is a painfully slow character and squishy as a gummy bear statistically speaking, but he makes up for this with being able to do devastating damage against both Jedi and non-Jedi. He gains bonus turn meters on final blows on his basic. He has the ability to apply daze on everyone. His Zeta leader ability gives him a ton of turn meter bonuses at the beginning of the game. He has an ability to go ahead and prevent critical damage, making up for his low health, and he also has a huge amount of health steal. All of this really compensates for the stuff that he is lacking numerically. Ever since Daze became a mechanic in the game, he has been in nearly every mortal enemies list I have made ever since he got Daze. He shuts down counter teams like I'm a Gun Die, Fives, Ayla Sakura, Sunfac, and prevents bonus turn meter, which Palpatine and Stormtrooper Han or Rex could give off. Daze is just such a powerful mechanic, and I still argue it is the second deadliest debuff, and Darth Maul fortunately can apply it to every single enemy on the field. His Zeta leader ability is arguably one of the best in the game, and it brings a lot of life to the Sith. The opportunity to gain huge turn meter boosts at the very beginning and any time they evade means that Sith characters can open the gates with a ton of debuffs and huge damage. As I mentioned before, there's the whole whack-a-mole analogy where you can't single down on a single Sith, and it makes it very difficult for your opponents to kind of adapt to all this back and forth action. And since he got these changes, he also works in many different lineups outside of Sith, because of the Daze application and the huge damage makes him a bit more flexible, so by no means he has to stay in an all Sith team. With Sith getting more popular because of their reworks as well as Darth Nihilus, you need to know who Darth Maul's mortal enemies are, because I guarantee you I can foresee him being a lot more popular in the future. Mainly characters that can apply buff immunity like B2 Super Battle Droid are really important to prevent his Zeta ability from being useful. Characters that can cleanse or give tenacity up are deadly against Maul, because not being able to apply daze or allow the other Sith to apply their debuffs are pretty much knocks out half of his usefulness. So Rex, Yoda, Kenobi, Chirrut, Akbar are great counters. Shock from Palpatine and Dooku prevent all of the things pretty much that Darth Maul grants from his Zeta leader ability, so no stealth, no advantage, no turn meter bonus, bonuses, so also a very great counter. And ability block is also pretty important because Darth Maul heavily relies on whirling blades. Since he is a free-to-play character, there's a good chance you're going to unlock him one day and might be using him a lot, so you want to know who Darth Maul's best friends are. And of course, without saying much, all of the Sith are his best friends. He has a very strong relationship with each and every Sith in one way or another. Vader is great for more damage and turn meter removal. Palpatine is great for health regeneration, like Nihilus, where Maul can go ahead and absorb a ton of health. Cleansers are a friend of Darth Maul as well because you want to make sure he's not being slowed down, ability block, or shocked. Buff stripping characters are actually great to get tanks out of the way so Maul can choose characters who might be at the brink of defeat. Darth Maul also appreciates tanks because it's kind of a must since Darth Maul might not be the fastest, and because Darth Maul's pretty fragile, you want to try to defend him as much as possible. On the same line of thinking, if you're using Darth Maul, you need to know what mods to use, and if you're using Darth Maul in any lineup outside of a Nihilus lead, I recommend going with all critical damage and critical chance mods. The reason why I say that is because there are so many opportunities to get 30,000 plus hits on his basic, on his AoE, and it's mainly because critical damage mods are amplifying his unique and primary ability descriptions. In a Nihilus lead though, you want to focus more on offense or maybe speed mods since you will not be able to score critical hits under a Nihilus lead, so do keep that in mind. Primary and secondary mods kind of follow the same idea. Any team that does not have a Nihilus lead, use mods that amplifies critical damage, chance, protection, health, and even potency. But most importantly, speed is definitely a must for him since it's very, very low. With a Nihilus lead though, you might as well avoid critical chance and critical damage mods in their entirety and maybe focus more on protection, speed, health, potency. All those are probably going to be a lot more important under a Nihilus lead. Last thing we have is Yoda's do or do not checklist, and I'm just going to quickly go ahead and tell you if Darth Maul is viable in many aspects of the game. The first matter to talk about is Arena, and definitely do. Zeta ability is absolutely fantastic, and even outside of being a leader, he is also great. You may have seen gameplay of Darth Maul working great with Magma Trooper in Arena that I posted not too long ago. Galactic War, by far my favorite character in Galactic War. So many battles where Darth Maul will just use his basic and destroy everyone by himself, and there's plenty of footage of that in this video. Dark side battles definitely do, really helps out having that daze and the powerful damage, and there are a lot of Jedi in dark side battles, so that is Darth Maul's bread and butter. Cantina battles also do, same reason, a lot of Jedi, daze comes in handy, big damage, what's to go wrong right there. Mod challenges do not, there are no Sith specific mod challenges, although you could use them for the generic health mod challenges. Ships definitely do. Although a very hard ship to get free to play, it took a long time for me to get him, but he is by far one of my favorite ships, and I'm going to talk about him later on in a different video. Rancor rate, it's really not there, so I will say do not. I mean, he could be helpful under a Darth Vader Zeta lead to remove turn meter, but he is not an absolute must and is kind of more of a third or fourth string character to use. AAT rate, I will go ahead and say do. There's plenty of gameplay out there with Darth Maul working amazingly well in phase 2 of the normal AAT rate, and he's also great for the heroic AAT to apply days and all that amazing stuff, so definitely do for that as well. It is finally time to go ahead and pull up the Hall of Fame and see where we are going to rank Darth Maul. If someone asked me to review him way back before November, I would have easily placed him in the Youngling category. He was a joke in the game. Ever since the Zeta, Sith updates, and all this stuff, we need to talk about where he is going to land. And from Grandmaster to Youngling, we are going to place Darth Maul in the Grandmaster status. Darth Maul's second generation touches really took him way above the top, and he is just a must-have character. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm pretty open with how I spend money on this game. Last time I spent any money was when Palpatine first came out. I bought that $10 booster pack so I can go ahead and farm Lando a lot faster to do the 7th tier of the Palpatine event. And just recently, I decided to buy that $20 Darth Maul pack to get 80 shards and put me to 7 stars for him. He's a very useful character, very strong, so much fun to use, and very hard to farm, so I found this the time to go ahead and spend money since it's been roughly 6 6 months since I supported the game monetarily. But there you have it. Great character, and I hope you enjoyed this in-depth review. If you want to support my channel, there's a link down below in the description to go ahead and buy an Auto T101 t-shirt. Really helps out the channel, really helps out my law school education, and I thank you all so much for watching this episode. As always, guys, please go ahead, like this video if you enjoyed it, comment down below on what you want to see next, and subscribe for more Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes content. And we will talk again soon. Peace out.
We got